So he had an interesting career in sports, both on and off the ice. A big guy, 6'4", 200, product of the Minnesota high school system, coming from small towns like Hibbing and Pengeely, Minnesota. With the Colin Greenway Minnesota high school program, he had 20 points in his last year, which was his draft year. But the idea about Mike Peluso, he was always doing something on the ice. Now, drafted at the age of 19 in 1965, he was basically 6'4", 200 pounds, had to smile, had to look, and allegedly was one of the paramours, or the paramour mentioned in the Alanis Morissette's song You Ought to Know, because he played with the Senators when allegedly he and Morissette dated. Now, Mike Peluso, boys, you say that name and it brings back a lot of strange memories because he was part of the, what they call Massacre Monday, or the Massacre game with St. Louis years ago. Now, he grew up in Pengeely, Minnesota, where his father worked as an iron miner, and that's the truth. Now, he was not drafted right away. Had to wait until December 28, 89 to make his debut in the contest between Minnesota and Chicago. Chicago decided to take a chance on him, and his number 44 drew a lot of interest in Chicago and Ottawa. He eventually did show up in New Jersey, St. Louis, as well as Calgary. He won a Stanley Cup in 1995, but retired in 1997. Now with Chicago, Ottawa, New Jersey, St. Louis, and Calgary, 90 points in 458 games, 2,000 nearly minutes and penalties. Now in the playoffs, 3 goals, 7 assists, 107 minutes and penalties. Now he lost the Stanley Cup at Chicago in '92. Now he holds the Chicago record for most penalty minutes in the season, 408 in '92, and also the Ottawa record for most penalty minutes in the season, 318 in '93. He was again an original center. He was the NHL penalty minutes leader in '92 with Chicago, and NHL playoff penalty minutes leader in '94 with New Jersey with 64. He was Chicago's penalty minutes leader in '91-92, and Ottawa's leader in '93. Led New Jersey in penalty minutes in '95 and '96. He also was their playoff leader in penalties in '94. Led St. Louis in penalty minutes in '97 with 158. Now, he was the first University of Alaska Anchorage alumnus to play in the NHL. He fought Basil McRae in the second period of his first NHL game, but unfortunately missed part of the '91 season with a bruised jaw and cheek. An injury suffered when the puck hit him in the face during Chicago's game versus Edmonton on November 8, 1990. He did not return to action until Chicago assigned him to Indy of the AHL on December 3rd, 1990, and it was back 2 weeks later. He recorded the third highest single season penalty minutes total in NHL history when he led the league with 408 minutes in penalties in '92. Now left unprotected by Chicago for the '92 expansion draft and claimed by the Senators on June 18, '92. He was also suspended by the NHL for one game during the 1993 campaign for receiving his third game misconduct penalty season during Ottawa's January 29, 93 game in Montreal. So he was part of what I call the new breed, the larger breed of enforcers. At 6'4", 200 and some pounds, and very few people wanted to take him on. He wasn't a goon, like he had some talent, ladies and gentlemen. Now, suffered numerous injuries during his career, especially a bad concussion, an injury suffered when his helmet came off, his head and hit the ice while fighting, of all people, Tony Twist of the third period during New Jersey's December 18, '93 game at Quebec. He did not return to action for a week. He was also suspended by the NHL again for his third fighting major. Suspended for another 2 games in '94, receiving his fourth game misconduct of the season. Then he was suspended by the NHL for 3 games during the '94 campaign for receiving his fifth game misconduct of the season. He did not return to action for a whole week. Now, the big line he played with was Bobby Holik and Randy McKay. I guess you know who's going to start the fights there. Now, bad hip injury during the '94 playoffs, and also missed the part of the '95 season with a sore neck, an injury during the game against the Rangers. Now, he played again on the crash line for a majority of 2 seasons with New Jersey. Now, another incident that we all remember, he was fined $1,000 by the NHL for elbowing the very, very needy Joseph Stumple in the face during Game 3 of New Jersey's first round playoff series versus Boston. Now, myriad of injuries through the years. It was a bad one. He suffered by the hands of Darius Kasparaitis. He was out for a month. Again, bad shoulders, bad legs, bad knees. That happens with people with size. Now, eventually, he had his rights transferred by St. Louis to the Rangers as compensation for St. Louis signing Rangers Vice President of Player Personnel Larry Plow to become the Blues GM. Peluso was sent to the Rangers on June 21st, 97, but never played with them. Eventually, he was left unprotected by the Rangers for the 97 waiver draft, and he was claimed by Calgary in September 97. The bad injury he had in November that year ruined the rest of his season and ended his career, a strained neck. It almost paralyzed him. Seeing doctor's advice, he opted to retire at the end of December 97. Now here's the big suspension, and if you can find it on video, go to it. It was quite interesting. The NHL suspended him for 10 games, an automatic suspension, during the 91 season for coming off the bench during a second period fight between teammate Dave Manson and Scott Stevens in Chicago's March 1791 game versus St. Louis, a contest later dubbed the St. Patrick's Day Massacre. The NHL ruled that Chicago coach Mike Keenan had deliberately sent Peluso and Stu Grimson. Get this, Dave Manson, Peluso, and Stu Grimson out to fight St. Louis Stars Adam Oates and Brett Hull as retribution for an earlier fight involving Chicago Stars Jeremy Roenick and Steve Larmer. The NHL suspended Peluso on March 21st, 91. Keenan was also fined $5,000 for his role in the incident, and Chicago complained that Stevens, who had also come off the bench, was given special treatment because his suspension was limited to 2 games. After a result of the ban, Peluso remained out of the rest of the 91 regular season before rarely returning to action in Game 4 of Chicago's first-round playoff series at Minnesota on April 10th. Now, ironically, when he was not signed out of New Jersey, he played with Stratford of the Ontario Junior B League and the Alaska Anchorage franchise of the GWCHC, and of course Indy of the IHL. Now, he won a Turner Cup with Indy in 1990. He was a Great West Conference All-Star First Team, 87-88 with Alaska Anchorage, their MVP in 89, Rookie of the Year in 86, Meriwether Scholarship winner in 87, Anchorage Thompson Award, 88 inaugural winner, Most Improved Player in 86, Captain in 89. He holds the most career points record by a defenseman at 113 with Alaska Anchorage, most career assists by a defenseman with 92, most points in one season by a rear guard, 37 in 88, and most assists by a defenseman in one season with 33. Now, he played for AA when the school was in the Great West Hockey Conference and a Division I independent. Shifted from his natural position of defense to left wing while playing for Indy in 1990. He was spending his remainder of his pro career as a left wing. He was very active in charitable causes during his playing days, including work for one of his favorites, the American Cancer Society. Now, he returned to Minnesota after retirement and became coach of the St. Louis Park High School girls hockey team, holding position through 2005 season. Now, he's a cousin of NHL player Mike Peluso, born 1974, and former minor leaguer Tim Peluso. See, the word Peluso to a Frenchman sounds like an Italian hitman or a Greek hitman. Now, unfortunately, Peluso was not offered an NHL contract within 2 years of being drafted, and because he had already spent a year outside of college, he was eligible for unrestricted free agency when he graduated from Alaska in 1989. He signed with Chicago a few weeks later, but 4 years after that, New Jersey got Peluso back when he was traded by Ottawa, New Jersey, to complete a June 2093 deal, when New Jersey sent Craig Belton, Troy Millette, and a 93 fourth-round pick, Cosmo Dupal, to Ottawa in exchange for Peter Sidorkovich and future considerations. Peluso, the deal's future considerations, went to New Jersey on June 26. 3 years later, New Jersey lost Peluso again when the Devils traded him and Richard Parson to St. Louis in exchange for Ken Sutton and a 99 second-round pick, which was Brett Cloutier. Now, the very interesting word with this, again, is enforcer. Now, why he was not put in left wing to expand his career. Now, he was considered a slick defenseman when drafted by New Jersey in 95, but again, it took him a while to get there. Now, upon joining the Hawks, he was switched to forward and encouraged to fight by the coaching staff in order to stay in the lineup. Again, the Basil McRae fight, that was the initial one. Now, again, only played 63 games in 92, but the 408 minutes and penalties. Now, the 3 years in Chicago led to Ottawa, of course. The 21st pick in the NHL expansion draft in 92. Uh, Only one season in there. Now, as in Ottawa, and different players he went, he's gritty, hard-nosed, and intimidating style made him something of a cult hero in New Jersey. No. And he's also the fourth line. He had some key goals during their time in New Jersey. Holik was sort of like the eye candy, and Randy McKay was kind of the grinder, but Peluso was kind of the straw that was started to drink. The spinal cord injury in '97, I don't know if there was a problem with paralysis, but it was pretty freaky. But he put in pretty good numbers, like after getting drafted. With the Stratford Colletons of the MWJHL, he had 45 points in '85, including 10 counters. University-Alaska Anchorage put the team on a map, getting a lot of attention. Best season was last with 37 points in '89. Now, with the Ice in 1990, 75 games in the regular season, 14 in the playoffs, 18 points. Now, a split time with Chicago in the Ice again in 91, as well as 92. But that 408 stands out like a sore thumb in 92. Now, the Senators, one of the shining lights of that season. For the team, 25 points in 81 games, including 15 goals. Now, his time with New Jersey, again, a lot of injuries, a lot of suspensions. Best season was first with 4 goals, 16 assists for 20 points in '94. Last season again with the Flames, 23. Now, the '93 incident between the Nordiques and Tony Twist remains a precedent case for possible lawsuits. In this case, while playing again for the Devils in a game against the Nordiques, he was injured in a fight against Tony Twist. He was diagnosed with a concussion and sat out the next 2 games before returning to action 5 days later. Despite his continuing to play, Peluso suffered a seizure, and Dr. Marvin Ruderman allegedly wrote in January '94 that Peluso should not sustain any further trauma to his head, or he will suffer additional seizures and long-lasting brain damage. Because his role with the team was an enforcer, Peluso was expected to both sustain and dole out punishment, whereas his lawsuit states he was on the ice to fight. Now, he remained on the roster and continued to play for the Devils for much of the next 3 years, including winning the '95 Stanley Cup, but recalls overhearing then-trainer Teddy Schooch a wonder as to Peluso's health only be overruled by team doctor Barry Fisher. He was later traded to the Blues during the '97 season, before finishing his pro career with the Calgary Flames the following year. Now, in 2012, after years of suffering from seizures, dementia, memory loss, anxiety, and depression, he filed for workman's compensation in California, naming the last 4 teams he had played for in the NHL career. He suited up for the Senators prior to sustaining a concussion as defendants. In the filing, Peluso alleged that he spent thousands of dollars on medical procedures and medication to alleviate his ailments. After several years of litigation, Peluso was offered a $325,000 settlement, but rejected the offer in August 2017. Now, several months passed with no resolution in the matter, but in January 2009, Peluso sued the New Jersey Devils, former GM Lou Lamoriello, who was with the Maple Leafs at the time, and doctors Marvin Ruderman, Len Jaffe, and Barry Fisher. The suit alleges that Peluso's medical issues resulted from the injury he sustained in '93. The team owners knew about the damage and hid the severity of the injury from him and the 2 teams that signed him subsequently. The idea of Mike Peluso, again, it's something that will never be resolved. He was an enforcer that was not, say, looked upon to have a job to do, but with all the cranial trauma and the CT incidents and all that, the Peluso, either he expected to do it or he had to do it. But of course, the big thing is Peluso's Hall of Fame induction to the Alaska Anchorage Hall of Fame was very important to him and his family. He really enjoyed playing in Alaska. Now, when he patrolled the Seawolf Blue Line for 4 years, he appeared in 130 games. Again, he finished his UAA career as the program's all-time defenseman scoring leader, and upon his induction to the Hall of Fame 13 years later, still held school's defensive marks for points in the season, career, assists, and career. Now, a 3-year captain and a 2-time All-Great West Conference selection, Peluso led the Seawolves to a 55-37-8 record of his final 3 seasons. As team MVP in '89, he helped UAA to the title of his own Jeep Nissan Classic in a trailing 5-2 double overtime victory over Western Michigan. Now, his charitable work includes the Muscular Dystrophy Association, the American Cancer Society, and Great American Smokeout, and of course he and his wife Heather live in Edina, Minnesota. I have great respect for Mike Peluso. I know he's been, not say fucked over, but the thing is, nowadays he would have a better time in the NHL, but in the last glory era of the enforcer, you had Kordic, you had Twist, you had Domi, you had Probert, you had Peluso, Stu Grimson, Stevens. I mean, it was add up. There had to be a 15 or 20, Berkshire, McSorley. There was 15 and 20 highly talented goons who would not back off from punches. Peluso, I hope he has a happy life, and I wish that for any former players, but he's been through a lot. It's a cautionary tale because as talented you are, sometimes the game could be too heavy, and you can be caught up in the... But the early 1990s, with the shit that was going on with Keenan and some of the other coaches there, you'll never see that in 2024. Tortorella thinks he can be like Keenan in the early 90s because it was a win all cost. And when Chicago started to rise up again in relation to hockey, that was a different time. That's what I'm saying. Kill or be killed, Dave. So, but Mike Peluso, probably one of the most underrated players in the NHL in the decade, and I really miss him because when he'd speed up with his line mates, boys, and he put New Jersey on the map because you couldn't have won the Stanley Cup without him, for sure. Have a good one, and don't forget, keep your stick in the ice. Bye.